A while back, I was looking at the art pictures of Stephen Fabian on his website, and as I was scrolling down, I noticed one particular picture that interested me, so I had a closer look on it. And it was the front cover to a book, which is a historical fiction. The book is this, Dragon of the Ishtar Gate by Sprague De Camp. The last time I reviewed Sprague De Camp was, I believe, the Tritonian Ring with illustrations done by James Cawthorne. Well, this one, originally published in 1961, I believe this is a 1982 version. It's because it has front cover and the interior art of Stephen Fabian. And I picked this up, and I enjoyed Sprague De Camp before. But this time, this is the first historical fiction I've read of his, so let's take a look at it. Our story takes place roughly around the 460s BCE in the Persian Empire under King Xerxes. Yes, the King Xerxes, who was the leader who led a war against the Greeks and faced the 300 Spartans, but we're not going to go through that. What it starts off with Xerxes talking with the Wizard of Sanus to consult about how he needs to become truly immortal. He's getting there in age. He wants to continue ruling. But he doesn't want to die, obviously. So so the wizard says, okay, there's a way we can do this. But in order for you to become immortal, we need three vital components here. 1, the ear of a king. 2, the blood of a dragon. 3, the heart of a hero. And Xerxes has found a way to see if he can acquire those items. And this is where we're introduced to our main character, Bessas, who is a soldier of King Xerxes' army from Bactria. But we find him about to be executed. It's halted by Bessas' mother and his Greek teacher Myron, who she recruits his help to try and get an audience with the king to help stop this execution. And that's where Xerxes is, like, okay, we'll take this opportunity to send him on a quest to get these 3 items we need to make me immortal. So he thinks. All right, so now the quest is made. He gives him roughly about a year and a half or something like that. To give him a little while, although they have to, they can't lollygag around on this. So Bessas recruits Myron for his journeys, despite the fact he's a little bit older for these type of things. This is his time to explore around the world. They needed to he'll need help of Myron to help record the exploits of their journey, and this will give Myron an opportunity to find out he's really curious about the shape of the world, and hope he can find that out along the way. So their journey, they try and you can see how of this book how they set up their journey, how they get their supplies and all that. That may seem kind of boring, but it's something you may have to think about that you want to set up adventures like this. So they go from Persepolis and they go to Babylon, and they go to the great Ishtar Gate, which is, you can quickly look that up, the Ishtar Gate, and you can see, how, they have it in a museum, you can still see it in construction. Why am I mentioning this? Because this Ishtar Gate usually has the auroch, which is the, base bull that we breed all our cows from, has lions on it, but also it illustrated the dragon they may think they need to find. And that is the Cirrus. And Fabian heads every chapter with a picture of this. You may have seen something like this before. The Cirrus you find you find this illustrated and released of the Ishtar Gate. The way I could quickly describe it is, it's got the front paws of a lion, it's got the back claws of an eagle, but it has an interesting tail there. The Ishtar Gate does show it like it has a stinger, like a scorpion tail, has the neck and the head of a snake. It looks like it has ears, has a forked tongue, but also has this weird curved horn about it. And that is most likely the dragon they need to search for. Why they figure this? Because apparently there are stories about the Temple of Marduk some time back bringing in a baby Cirrus that they brought back from the source of the Nile. So that's where they think they have to go. They have to go from Persepolis all the way down to the Nile source, which quite a ways down there. So this is the part where nobody in that empire has ever searched before. The empire never made it that far. So they're in for a treat. And it starts off with Bessas and Myron alone, but they do recruit other people and even a tribe of nomadic traders to help them out along the way. And some of the people they recruit along the way would be a couple of men of Ska and Shimmery from 2 different areas along their journey here. They will serve as extra arms. Then they come across their wizard, so to speak, that is the Syrian Kothar. yeah, there's magic in this because and people who believe in this, and there, but you don't see people throwing fireballs or thunderbolts and all that. But there are people who believe they have powers. This is, again, this is historical fiction, but there were people who believe in that stuff and believe they had the power, and Kothar is one of them. And so they may need his magic to help along the way. But other than that, he's also had some experience in the areas they are going to go. He's also a translator that will help along the way. And of course, further down, you come across some, Arab Bedouins, where the leader of the group helps him out, and he also has a daughter, Salamet, who we see on the cover here, who will serve as a love interest to Bessas, and I'll get to that shortly. They also came across through gambling with one of the people down in the cities further south, a Greek slave named Phyllis. You get to know her story and all that. She's from Macedonia, and now, some of these people, as I mentioned, the Salamet will be his love interest, but you also kind of, figure out who will be served better than others, who may be traitor, or if there is any. And with all that, they travel, Myron and Bessas, they're traveling through, travels takes from Persepolis to Babylon to Egypt, and then down to Cush, and then beyond. Just take a look at a map of the Persian Empire at this time. It's quite expansive. And then take a look at a world map and go from the Nile, from Egypt, and go all the way south and try and find the source of the Nile. It's not going to be easy. And the source of the Nile is not necessarily one area. I think it's not one area. It's actually, it spreads out a couple areas. So they got quite a bit of land to follow. So going through that arduous journey, trying to maintain their resources along the way, while trying to find the component parts, the ear of the king. There is some tomb raiding involved, and it's pretty obvious based on what I just said where they'll find that. But the dragon that is needed for King Xerxes, that's the main one they're trying to find. They're not told about the third component, so they're focused on the ear and they're focused on the dragon. First of all, they have to get to the source of the Nile, and that means every stop they go is a major city or major tribal leaders. They have to talk to them first. And see if they can, convince them through trade, bartering. To some of them are more hostile than others. They come across one tribe that comes up, someone says, all right, give me gift, not trade. No, give me something. And many of them make like this, so they have to protect their goods that they need to go further down. So that's one opposition. There's also the fact that Bessas has a rival that's been trying to send agents to kill him along the way. They come across a secret society led by Xerxes' brother, who wants trying to overthrow him because he is they don't declare him a good king at all. He's trying to make magnificent of himself while at the expense of the people. But so you got all these problems, and of course along going through these, they come across this one kingdom in Africa where and they allowed him to go further south on the condition that there's a special treasure to find, and there's this one particular gem that is of high value and possibly some sorcerer's abilities. So again, they agree if they can let them pass to find their the Cirrus, but as long as they are trying to find the best they can this treasure. So there's another thing they have to get into this. So now the question is, can Bessas and his crew accomplish the goals, needed to complete for King Xerxes? Because Bessas is on a time limit to try and find this mystical Cirrus, supposedly in the source of the Nile. In addition, the treasure he's also been, he promised to find along the way for the tribe that that allowed him to go further south on this. If they can't find it, will they find a decent substitute? Is there, how are they going to confront King Xerxes, who sent him out there to be immortal, although he never told him that? Will they succeed? Will they find something to make up for it? Or is there, what's going to happen to that? So, I'll leave that to the reader to how that turns out here. Now, there is a bit of a flaw in this book, as you can see from the cover, the way it is posed. That's Bessas, that's Salamet, the Bedouin leader's daughter, and of course they're together, and it indicates there might be a love interest, which there is, but you may find it a flaw because they show they're together for the journey, And then all of a sudden, you start reading Bessas saying, "Oh, that he has fallen in love with her and all that." But there's no interaction that indicates that between the two that you read, or it mentions that they were interacting with each other for a love to develop. She sort of kept separate from the main characters of the group of Bessas, Myron, and all the other characters. She hardly has any, part where she talks at all. There are some times where she helps out. But nothing between the two. Now, will they get together or not? I will leave that, I'll leave that a mystery to you all till you read it. And just bear in mind, if you read Sprague De Camp's work, he doesn't follow the strict rule that when you hook these two together, to develop love between them, they always stick together. Sometimes they are just not good for each other despite their feelings. Sometimes they find others, but sometimes they do hook up together. So I won't spoil that. But once you read that, you kind of see what I mean. It's like, wait a minute, where did this come from? Okay, we understand that this is happening, but could you fill this in a little bit to show that there's a growing interest between the two? Just happens all of a sudden. But I'll ignore that because I'll accept it just to keep the story going.
Of course, I got to show off the wonderful art by Stephen Fabian. While there are only a few, the detail and style really brings this book to life. Fabian had this to say on his website. Artist Eugene Delacroix wrote, "The virtue of a painting is to be not only a feast for the eyes, but also a bridge connecting the painter's mind with that of the viewer. Applying that same reasoning to a book, its virtues should be as food for thought, linking the writer's mind to that of the reader." Oh, and a fun fact here. The cover for this book was later used by Fabian using his computer into a Conan cover, Wings of the Night, for the 4th volume in a 10-volume set of The Weird Works of Robert E. Howard in 2005.
Of course, being historical fiction, and this is Sprague De Camp, De Camp is very astute when trying to get as much research as he can to try and make out this world of the time period that he can, as it is. And, well, at least the best that he can do. And he talks about this in the author's notes. He talks about what is imaginary, what is based on historical facts, and or what's based on legends. Like for instance, Xerxes, wizard Ostanis is kind of sort of a legendary figure. So is Salamat, he admits here, and he finds out, he explains the names that he chosen for this. There's classical Persian, there's old Persian, and he explains why he uses certain words over the others, and other details about that. So, and I think it's important to read such things. We're kind of so used to reading fiction and books and movies and all that, and assume that the creators made this as historically accurate as possible, so what we see is what we're going to get. But we also find out, there's a tiny amount of research that there's a lot of times the creative licensing was overused, and we can't tell the difference between that in most cases. So Sprague De Camp really explains the author's note, fixing what is known, what is not known, why he used this, and so forth. So I think it's very important on that. If you read this and then you're disappointed, hey, you got this wrong, this is is more fantasy and all that, that's on you, because he did try to put this in here. But there is another advantage for a good adventure story like this, and that is tabletop role players, particularly dungeon masters, GMs, what have you, and want to go old school in their quest, and particularly resource management and obstacles aside. I think this is a good example to show what the original Dungeons and Dragons try to portray through sword and sorcery in particular, but even historical fiction like this. They go through the same obstacles of going through long journeys and all that. So, because I hear a lot from specifically old grognards that say, D&D 5th edition is where characters are so superpowered. They're almost like superheroes these days. And they don't have to worry about language barriers because there's a spell to get through that, or food because there's a simple spell to give them all the nutritious food they want, or shelter and things like that. No, this kind of goes through what you would actually have to go through in order to start off your journey, where you're going to get your funds, how do you spend your funds, what do you spend it on, what if they go low, how do you acquire them again, or what other means can you trade or barter and all that, and how that can set up for further adventures, particularly the treasure they're agreed to find further south, along with the dragon that they need to find and capture. So I say with this one, and things like the Tritonium ring are good examples, for how run traditional tabletop role-playing adventures here. So yeah, despite the fact that it's historical fiction, I think for fantasy readers and tabletop role players, combine the stuff you read through this and with tips and tricks on shoe leather, the unnecessary parts, you can get your characters through understand through other dangers other than just monsters. They go through their obstacles as well in fights and not everything like that. But also on how resource management, I think as Mr. Welch once said, if there's no thrill to the players, there's no no satisfaction to reward, so to speak, paraphrasing there. So with that said, I definitely enjoyed this one. Dragon of the Ishtar Gate, illustrated by Stephen Fabian. This one is Dawning Books here, in case you're interested in the publication and all that, just look for the cover. And what else can I say? Good book, historical fiction, and from a writer I admire. All right, thank you all for watching. Have a nice day.